This Sunday is the solemnity of Pentecost in year B. This is the final Sunday in the Easter season. This Sunday, the priest will be dressed in red to symbolize the fire of the coming of the Holy Spirit. The second reading and gospel this Sunday might be taken from year A, but we will talk about the optional year B second reading and gospel. We'll get to year A soon enough. The second reading this week is from St. Paul's letter to the Galatians. Galatia was an area in what is now central Turkey. That area was settled by the Gauls around 250 BC. Gaul was a large area in Western Europe, now known mainly as France, Belgium, and Luxembourg. The word Galatia comes from the Greek word for Gaul. At the time of Jesus, Galatia was, of course, within the Roman Empire. St. Paul established a church at Galatia, but subsequently Jewish high priests interfered and required that the early Christian community at Galatia follow all Jewish laws. To put it lightly, Paul was not happy. Paul's letter to the Galatians was intended mainly to emphasize that Christian faith is independent of Jewish law. In today's second reading, we hear Paul say, "If you are led by the Spirit, no law can touch you." The Gospel reading this week is from the lengthy part of John's Gospel known as the Farewell Discourse, chapters 14 to 17 of John. The Farewell Discourse records the final conversation that Jesus had with his disciples after the Last Supper and before he was arrested. In the Gospel this Sunday, Jesus says to the disciples that he will send the Spirit of truth to them, to lead them to a full understanding of his message. This Sunday, you might hear that Jesus used the word paraclete to describe this Spirit. This word comes from the Greek word parakletos, which means advocate, a person who speaks in support of another person. The first reading this Sunday is from chapter 2 of the Acts of the Apostles, the last Sunday reading from the Acts of the Apostles until next Easter. And this week, the first reading is, again, hugely important. This chapter of Acts records the event that Christians have come to know as Pentecost, the coming of the Holy Spirit upon those closest to Jesus. So this reading from Acts is the first reading on Pentecost Sunday every year, A, B, and C. And most translations of verse 1 of chapter 2 go something like this. When the day of Pentecost had come, they were all together in one place. Two very interesting words, Pentecost and they. Pentecost, this was already a day of celebration. The word Pentecost comes from the Greek word Pentekoste, which means 50th. Pentecost was originally a Jewish harvest festival, celebrated 50 days after the Jewish festival of Passover. A party because the wheat crop was ready, but also a day for gratitude to God and reflection on the law traditionally believed to have been given by God to Moses. And that second word, they. Who were these people all together in one place? Well, in chapter 1, we get a list of the apostles of Jesus staying together in Jerusalem. Peter, John, two Jameses, Judas, son of James, not the other one, Andrew, Philip, Thomas, Bartholomew, Matthew, Simon, and Matthias. Oh, and one other person, the only other person referred to by name, Mary, his mum.